next speaker has been a Toastmaster for over 24 years and is working on her 24th Competent Toastmaster or Competent Communicator. Today is her 80th birthday. Everybody sing. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Joy. Happy birthday to you. Again, today's her 80th birthday. Joy is doing project number 4, How to Say It, 5 to 7 minutes. The title of her speech is 80 Years and Counting. 80 Years and Counting. Joy Gaylord.
Many of the things that we take for granted and or consider necessities nowadays didn't exist 80 years ago. Madam Toastmaster, ladies and gentlemen. When I was born, there was no internet. There were no computers, no television, no jet planes, no microwave ovens, and no antibiotics. Now, all of those things have made an impact on my life since they came into being. I use my microwave just about every day. And a combination of computer and the internet were what inspired me to take a jet plane to visit Australia several times. But the innovation that had the largest impact on my life was that of antibiotics. That's because without them, if the timing had been just a little different, I wouldn't have even celebrated my 10th birthday, much less my 80th. In the summer of 1945, World War II was almost over. Germany had already surrendered, and Japan couldn't hold out for much longer. I was 9.5 years old, and I got an earache. Well, Mother tried the home remedies first, putting warmed oil into my ear. That would ease the pain temporarily, but it came back, so she took me to a doctor. His treatment was a little more drastic. He actually lanced the ear, poked a hole in the eardrum to drain the infection. Again, that would ease the pain temporarily, but it came back. Finally, after about a week, the doctor realized that he wasn't helping me. So he sent us to a specialist in downtown Los Angeles. The specialist examined me, then he asked the nurse to stay with me while he took my parents into his office to talk to me. He told them I had mastoiditis. The mastoid is the rounded bone behind your ear. You can feel it. And there's a cavity behind that bone. And the infection in that cavity was called mastoiditis. He said that the only treatment for mastoiditis was to saw into the bone and drain the infection out. However, my infection was so advanced, the swelling was so great, that it was quite probable that the pressure of the saw cutting into the bone would cause it to burst into my brain, which of course would have been fatal. Unfortunately, he said the way the infection was going, if nothing were done, that would probably happen anyway. But I had just one chance. A miracle drug had been developed during the war and produced. It had been reserved for the military only, where it had saved thousands of lives and prevented any number of amputations. Because the war was almost over, the supply of that drug had been released for civilian use, and the hospital where he had privileges had a supply of that drug. So I was put into White Memorial Hospital, where I spent a week getting a penicillin shot every 3 months, every 3 hours. 3 months, right? Well, his hope had been that the penicillin would reduce the infection enough, reduce the swelling enough that he could operate. Instead, it cured it completely. In fact, near the end of my visit, he brought some visiting doctors on a tour of the hospital. He brought them into the children's ward and said, "And this is the little girl who had the penicillin." 2 days after I went home, the war ended, and my mother wrapped me in a blanket and took me and my little brother for a ride in the car so that we could see the lights during the war because of the possibility of bombing, although it never happened. There were no neon lights allowed and very few street lights. So it was quite a change, especially for my little brother. He was only 6 and couldn't really remember what it had been like before the war. That's just one of the things that made a difference to me. I can remember running out and looking when I heard a jet plane trying to spot it, because they moved so fast they weren't where you thought they would be. Because it was really exciting to see a jet plane. I can remember when hearing about this huge machine called a computer. It was one called Univac. It was in a room probably 2 or 3 times the size of this one. All the different sections of it were. But it could do marvelous things. And of course, when the first home computers came out, that was a totally different thing. Microwave ovens were another wonderful invention. I still love mine. But I've seen a lot of changes during those 80 years. And I'm looking forward to seeing whatever changes might come in the next 80. Madam President.